Hey everybody, I'm Josh the 90s kid. I'm Josh. That's me. Do you guys remember like 10 years ago for Mario's 25th anniversary when Nintendo basically just farted out the SNES ROM of Super Mario All-Stars onto a disc, bundled in an audio CD and a pointless little book and said, "Here, pay us $30 for this." Even though you could get all four of these games for $21 don't worry about that. Pay us $30 for this. And everybody was like, "Wow, what a really lame way to celebrate this iconic character's 25th anniversary." Guess what they did for his 35th anniversary? Oh, I hate it. From the moment you boot up Super Mario 3D All-Stars, the lack of effort is so readily apparent, it's sickening. Oh. That's it. Make no mistake, this is 3 ports put onto a single cartridge. Now, to be fair, the Super Mario 64 port does have the uncompressed images. It runs at a much more consistent frame rate. There is no denying that this is the absolute best Super Mario 64 has ever looked. But realistically, they're ports. Super Mario Galaxy, I will say this for Super Mario Galaxy, I'm impressed with how well the motion controls work with the Joy-Cons. It's a little bit different than the original because obviously with the original you had the infrared sensor, so it was actually picking up where your Wii Remote was in real space. With it just depending on the gyroscopes within the Joy-Cons, you're going to be pressing R to center the pointer fairly often. When you're playing in handheld mode, instead of using, motion controls to point, you just use the touchscreen, use your finger on the touchscreen. It's nowhere near as elegant as using the motion controls. I mean, it is by far better to play in docked mode, but it's not unplayable in handheld mode. And indeed, I've actually sunk probably about an hour, or maybe even 2, in handheld mode on Galaxy. I'm gonna be honest, most of my time's been focused on Super Mario 64, because that game is like comfort food for me. Of course, that being said, whenever I go back and play Mario 64, I always have fun with it, and it always manages to bring back really good memories, but it also always manages to make me really frustrated, and reminds me that, oh yeah, this was one of the first 3D platformers. They didn't really know what they were doing. They were in uncharted waters, and sometimes the crazy shit that the camera gets up to really shows that. It's a real shame that they made zero attempt to correct that when bringing it over for 3D All-Stars. I mean, for the camera controls, they've basically just mapped the C buttons to the right analog stick. I don't know why you wouldn't take the time to just give it a full analog camera. Make it easier to play. That would be cool. I mean, because even the most hardcore fans of the original, if you're reasonable, I doubt you're sitting there saying, well, I'm glad they kept the original camera controls because I really find the nuance of dying for no damn reason really just enjoyable. It's part of the experience. Maybe you're a masochist, and if that's the case, you do you, boo. That's not something I say. What's weird is that they didn't mess about with any of the camera controls, but they did take the time to fix, you can't see but I'm doing air quotes, but fix the aiming in Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine to make it modern, so it's not inverted. Really sucks that I have years of muscle memory built up. It's really hard for me to get used to that. In fact, I'm still getting used to it, and I've probably spent a solid probably 4 hours in Sunshine, and probably 10 hours in 64. I've almost got all the stars in 64, and I still struggle with it. Now granted, modern gamers, they expect to have one-to-one controls with aiming. They don't expect to have that inverted control. I don't know how you solve that issue. I mean, I do, you just put a toggle, an option to turn that on or off, but this is Nintendo. They don't put options like that in their games. Come on. Super Mario 3D All-Stars collects 3 of the greatest platformers of all time. This should be a slam dunk, easy 8.5 or 9 out of 10. And yet, this collection gets a 5 out of 10. It is mediocre and just completely devoid of any kind of effort. Things just don't make sense. Like, yeah, it's great that we have a version of Super Mario 64 that runs at a constant frame rate and has the uncompressed images, and yet you'll still see Mario revert back to his low poly form. And the Super Mario 64 port is the Shindo port, which is great because it adds rumble, and you can have like 40 copies of Mario's face on the title screen, but it gets rid of that iconic line, "So long, Big Bowser." It's great to have Super Mario Sunshine in widescreen, but all it is zoomed in and cropped to get that widescreen ratio. It really is just bringing ports over. And don't ask for $60 when it's just ports of games, the newest of which is almost 15 years old. $60 is way too steep. At least throw something like behind the scenes or concept art, more than just the soundtracks. It just reeks of cash grab. And that doesn't even get into the whole it being a limited time release. That's just stupid. That's just so sad. I should be happy. I should be happy that I have Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy on the go now. I should be happy that I'm able to get my hands on these games that are becoming harder and harder to get your hands on because, well, the virtual console is no longer a thing. And yet I'm not. And that's just a real bummer. Almost as big of a bummer as the fact that this is already just selling like hotcakes. So now Nintendo knows that they can do this and they'll make money. All of it stinks and I don't like it. Bye.